This is Android Basics, in which we bring you up to date on the things that you should know to use your Android phone.
Let us now move on to our next segment, and today we are talking about and tips and support. In other words, we are now coming to the system settings, and we're concluding with the last two items found within the system settings, and that will be about phone and tips and support. I do have a preamble here, and we're going to go into it and take a listen, and then we will then deliberate and talk about some of the items that we think are of importance as we go through these last two items found in the system settings. And now, here's my quick overview of the last two items, about phone and tips and support. So here I am in the system settings, and we're looking at the last two items as indicated, and that will be the about phone and the tips and support. Let's go ahead though and get started with the about phone, and I am looking at this from my Pixel 6 Pro. So I'll now move on to the about phone.
About phone, Pixel 6 Pro.
Let's go ahead and tab here. And so about phone is going to tell us everything about the phone and all that good stuff. I'll tap here to get started.
About phone. Navigate up, button, out of list. Showing items 1 to 12 of 21.
We're told there are like 21 items in here, and I'm going to go through the items that you find in the about phone, and it's likely that I may be looking at some and ignoring some of them, most especially those that already tell you exactly as to what they are. But let's go through the list and see what we have here in the about phone. And of course, when I'm all done with that, then the podcast crew will now deliberate on these things and talk about the things that we think are worth mentioning. So now here are the items that we come across on this screen.
Basic info, heading, in list.
The first item we hear is the basic info. So in other words, it's going to be like your account, phone number, and all of that. I'll try to skip those because I don't want my account, or rather my phone number and things like that, getting recorded. So here's what we're talking about.
Device name, Pixel 6 Pro.
Device name is Pixel 6 Pro. Below that,
Google account.
that's your account. And then below that is your phone number.
Phone number.
And then below that, we have a heading that says
Legal and regulatory, heading.
Legal and regulatory information. And so the first item that we find underneath that heading will be
Legal information.
legal information. So let's tap here and see what items we find in here.
Legal information. Navigate up, button, out of list.
I'm going to move my finger down.
Legal information.
That's a header. And below that,
Third-party licenses.
the first item we hear is third-party licenses. I do want to mention here in passing, however, that when you tap on this, it's a screen that is not accessible. In other words, it's going to show you all that information which looks more or less like an image, and thus is not exposed to the screen reader. I'll tap here to show you what I'm talking about.
Third-party licenses. Navigate up, button, out of list.
And I'll put my finger down. Nothing. So even if I swipe,
Third-party licenses.
swipe again,
Web view.
it says web view, swipe again.
Libraries.
I hear libraries, swipe again. Nothing, swipe again.
OOOC 273F14E6A94E149EC14EP5D5CC 129,314. Link.
We heard that link. Let's say I tap on this one, for example.
Web view.
And put my finger down. Nothing. Swipe. Swipe. Nothing. As you can see, I can't read this because the content is not exposed to the screen reader. For giggles, though, I'm just going to tell the assistant to see if it can read it. Read screen.
All right. Sorry, I can't read what's on that page aloud.
I am told, sorry, I can't read that page aloud.
Third-party
I'm not going to waste our
licenses.
time on this, but I want to try something here. In other words, I'm going to pull out Lookout on my other phone and see if I can read anything on this screen at all. So let me grab another phone and launch Lookout and see what we get. Just a sec. All right, I grab my phone and I'm going to go to my OCR folder.
Folder, OCR, 4 or more. Lookout.
I'm going to tap on Lookout.
Lookout text mode.
And now I'm going to stand up and hold it over my other phone.
Sex OOOC 3B2126B 021BA0C5239 AB 4D5B 234EF 143D 2AB 8FCF 25D5C9 used. Vendor firmware carrier config ConFSX 0359 to 25303.
Well, that's what I was able to read
Folder.
with
Text
Lookout.
suggestions.
So as you can see,
Silent.
it's not a very accessible area. So I'm going to go back.
Legal information. Third-party licenses. Inlet.
And now below third-party licenses, we got
Google Legal.
Google Legal. And I'm thinking if I go here, it may be the same result. Next,
Google Play System Update Licenses.
Google Play System Update License. Below that,
System WebView Licenses.
the System WebView licenses.
Source code. Details about the source code for components made available as open source can be found at the Pixel Help Center.
Moving on,
Wallpaper credits. Satellite imagery providers. Copyright 2014 CNES Astrium, Digital Globe, Blue Sky.
okay. And that would be the last item on this page. Let's go back now to the previous page.
About phone. Legal information, in list.
So we're
Showing
back
items 1
on
to
legal
12 of
information and now moving down.
regulatory labels.
The regulatory labels. Let's go in here and see if this one is legible.
Regulatory labels. OK, button, out of list. Regulatory labels, image.
Moving down.
OK, button.
I heard okay.
Regulatory labels, image. OK, button.
And again, this one is not being read to us. I'm going to ask the assistant to see if it can read this part. Read page.
All right.
1時
Google.
46分
Pause, button.
89% R リガラトリーラベルヘッド 0.99W マイ kg ボディ
Okay,
Google
that
Assistant.
explains it.
Tap
As
to
you can
dismiss
hear,
assistant.
it was reading in either Chinese or some other language. I am sure that if I have allowed it to keep reading, we probably could hear some other language besides that language. So now, though, let's go to the previous screen.
About phone. Regulatory labels, in list. Showing items 1 to 12 of 21.
And moving from there, we've got
Safety and Regulatory Manual.
Safety and Regulatory Manual. Let's take a look here quick.
Safety and Regulatory Manual. WebView, out of Safety and Regulatory Manual.
I hope this is accessible to us. I'm going to put my finger down.
Safety, Warranty and Regulatory Guide for Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, heading 1.
That's the heading, first one, and moving down.
Where to find product information. Link.
where to find product information. Next,
Safety warnings. Link.
safety warnings.
Proper handling and usage. Link.
Keep going.
Service and support. Link.
Next,
Regulatory information. Link.
next.
Bullet, 1 of 8, 8 items.
And I hear bullet 1 of 8, and I keep moving down.
United States. Link.
This is for United States. Below that,
Bullet, 2 of 8.
next.
Canada. Link.
We got Canada. Next,
Bullet, 3 of 8. UK. Link.
here's the United Kingdom. Next,
Bullet, 4 of 8. EU. Link.
we got the EU. Next,
Bullet, 5 of 8. Australia. Link.
here's Australia. Next,
Bullet, 6 of 8. Singapore. Link.
Singapore. Next,
Bullet, 7 of 8. Japan. Link.
we come across Japan. And next,
Bullet, 8 of 8. Taiwan. Link.
we got Taiwan.
Limited warranty. Link.
And below that, we got limited warranty. And below that limited warranty, then we come across a heading that says
Where to find product information. Heading
where
2.
to find product information. And let's look at a little bit at what that says.
This guide includes the basic safety guidelines in the printed safety and warranty booklet that comes with your Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro. It also includes additional safety, regulatory, and warranty information about Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro.
You got the drift. I'm going to go back because all this is going to be all about the manual and all of that. So let's go back now to the previous screen.
About phone. Safety and regulatory manual, in list.
We
Showing
are
items
back
1
to
to
the
12 of
screen
12.
where we saw that safety and regulatory link, and we're going to move on down from here. And below that we got,
Device details, heading.
we come across a heading now that says device details, and below that,
SIM status, emergency calls only, Google Fi.
and we hear emergency only SIM status, Google Fi, and because this is not active, I can only make emergency calls on this because I haven't activated my SIM on this one as my active SIM is on my Pixel 7 Pro. Next, we hear
Model, Pixel 6 Pro.
as the model, keep going down.
IMEI,
The
35.
IMEI, keep going down.
Android version, 13.
Android version is version 13.
Device identifiers, heading.
Now we come across a heading that says device identifiers, and below that,
IP address, FE8.
IP address. Next.
Wi-Fi MAC address. To view, choose saved network.
All right. And to view that IP address, we need to tap on the saved networks. Next.
Device Wi-Fi MAC address.
We hear device Wi-Fi MAC address. We go down.
Bluetooth address, DC.
Bluetooth address. Next.
Uptime, 2757.
Uptime 2757. In other words, I've had this phone running for 27 minutes, almost half an hour. Next.
Send feedback about this device.
Send a feedback about the device and
Build number, T3.
build number. This is where you can tap 7 times if you want to enable the developer settings. In other words, if you want to fine-tune some things in the developer settings, for example, you want to enable things like ADB, or you want to enable the bootloader and all of that, you will tap this 7 times to enable that developer mode settings. For example, if I tap a few times, I'm not going to enable it, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Let me go ahead and tap here for a few times, and it will tell me I have X more tabs to get to the developer mode. So here I go.
You are now 4 steps away from being a developer.
There we go. And that's the last item in the About phone. Now I'm going to go back and we'll look at the tips and support.
Settings. About phone, Pixel 6 Pro, in list.
And below that we've got,
Tips and support, help articles, phone and chat.
there we go. So in here, we can go and find articles and, tips and also chat. And as a matter of fact, I do recommend if you're using a Pixel phone and anytime you want to access or get access to someone from Google, it's actually easier to come here and you can schedule a call, or you could even schedule to return a defective device right from this place. I'll tap here to show you what I'm talking about.
Help. Popular help resources, heading.
I am on this page now and we hear popular help headings. And below that we got
Change your clock's display.
change your clock display.
Use caller ID and spam protection. Make and receive phone calls.
Remember, these are help articles. So if you want to know how to make and receive phone calls, you tap this one to see how to make and receive phone calls. Next.
Get started with photos on your Pixel phone.
Next.
Reduce and manage mobile data usage.
Next.
Search help.
Or you could search something that you're looking for.
New to Pixel, heading.
Now we come across a heading that says New to Pixel. In other words, if this is the first time you're using a Pixel phone, here are some of the things you need to know. And we've got the following.
Explore Pixel tips, make the most of Pixel. Watch videos and more. Go to tips.
Next.
Need more help, heading.
Then we have Need More Help heading. And below that we got
Ask the help community, get answers from community experts.
Ask the help community. So in other words, if you go here, you're going to see some issues that some people have been dealing with, and you can post your own problem in here and all of that, and you can read responses and all of that stuff. Next.
Contact us, tell us more, and we'll help you get there.
That's the one I was talking about earlier. So for example, you want to contact them, this is the place to come to. I'll come back to this, but let's see the last items here.
Send feedback.
We got the send feedback.
Viewing as.
And we got viewing as, and that means below here, it's going to be your email address.
Drop down list, warcare@gmail.
And that's my email address right there. Now, let's go back, though, to the one I talked about, which is probably the most important one here in the event that you want to return your device, or in the event that you want to get hold of someone from Google to help you with your device. And we're going to go back to Contact Us.
Contact us, tell us more, and we'll help you get there.
So we tap here.
Navigate resources, step 2 of 3. Contact options, step 3 of 3.
I'll put my finger near the top and we'll proceed from there and go down through the options.
It looks like you're using app passwords to give third-party apps access to your account, warcare@gmail.com.
So it says it looks like I have some, apps password or app-specific passwords to access some of my stuff, and I could go in and disable them if I wanted, but this is not what I wanted. Let's say I want to get someone from Google, or let's say I want to return my device, or I want to schedule a call. So let's move on down.
Disable app passwords. Link.
Let's move on down.
And use sign in with Google to connect apps to your Google account.
Let's keep going.
Close. Button.
So I could tap on the close to close that dialog there, or simply move my finger down and I'll come across.
What can we help with? Step 1 of 3.
We got 3 steps, and this is the first step. So what can we help with? And here's our options.
Edit box. Tell us what we can help with. 5 characters required, character limit 0/100. Example, how do I change my settings?
And this is now in the edit field where you will type in the subject matter of what you're needing help with, and it allows up to 100 characters. I'm going to move my finger down.
Next. Button, disabled.
And there's a next button there below the edit field on the left edge of the phone. And we're told it is disabled because I have not typed anything in the edit field. Below that, though,
2.
step 2.
Resources. Heading 2.
We got resources,
3.
and then 3.
Contact options. Heading 2.
Contact options, heading 2. And moving down.
Close. Button.
And the reason why we hear close is because I haven't inputted anything in the help field above. But if you had inputted something in here, then you should be able to proceed to the next step. That's steps 2 and 3. And you could even schedule a call or schedule to return your device if that's what you want to do. And that will be it about the quick overview of both the About phone and tips and support. I'll now hand you over to the podcast crew as we deliberate on the things that we think are of great importance. So, Fee, what is it in here that you think you like in the About phone?
It's really useful to be able to find things like your IMEI number and stuff, because sometimes, like for example, with my insurance, to insure my phone, they need to know what that is. So that's useful. And to know sometimes to be able to check what version of software you're running, especially, a lot of us have our software update automatically. And so you might not always realize what version you're running. So I've checked that before. But you did have a problem, didn't you, Warren, when you were looking at this? You had to use Lookout for one of the screens, didn't you? Which sounded a bit annoying, and I don't know why Google hadn't sorted out that screen properly, because there was text on it, but the phone didn't read it itself. Do you know the bit I mean?
Indeed. So it had to do with all that legal stuff, and that text there was not kind of exposed to the screen reader. And as you can hear, I had to use Lookout to kind of get a little bit of what's going on there. And then in the other one, though, when I asked the assistant to read, you could hear it reading in, I think, on a second thought, I thought it was Chinese, but now I'm thinking it was Japanese. I'm almost positive that was Japanese, but I don't know, but at least one of those Asian languages. And so that's what that was. But that part at least read in another language. And so it told me that, the reason why that part was not reading was because it was in that language. But the other one that I used to Lookout on, not even the assistant could read that. That was very interesting.
No, I thought that was a bit rubbish, really. It's like, why can't we access the whole thing?
Yeah.
That wasn't very good. But yeah, things like the IMEI number and that kind of thing, and software build, it's very useful to be able to. I mean, it's not something I use often, but when I need it, it's good, to be able to do that. Because on the old phones years ago, you used to type in, I think it was *#06# to get IMEI numbers or something, wasn't it? Long time ago. And I don't know whether that probably wouldn't work on these Android phones anymore.
Yeah,
but
it does. It does not.
oh, does it? Does that still
Yeah.
work? Because that used to be kind of cool, but that's now I suppose that's a bit geeky. I mean, if you want to know any information about your phone or SIM, I mean, About it's the logical place to go, isn't it? So yeah, that's it's good. But like I say, not somewhere I go often, but useful when you do actually need it, like for insurance companies or to check your software version and see what you're running and things like that. It's very good.
And by the way, if you're wondering what IMEI is, if you didn't know, of course, we're talking about an acronym here that stands for International Machine Equipment ID, IMEI. And that's what that IMEI, you know how it is. Our world today is so full of acronyms, and it's hard to keep a tab on those things is, I don't know who can keep a tab on all of that, but we throw this around, and sometimes you want to activate a phone, they want you to tell them what that IMEI is. I remember AT&T, when I was switching my daughter to AT&T, they wanted that IMEI, and I'm like, no, I don't want to give you my IMEI. I just want to pick up your SIM card and just throw it in there, and it's not your phone. I didn't get the phone from you, so I'm not giving you my IMEI. And so we just went and picked up the SIM, throw it in there. Sure enough, works. No questions asked. So I don't want someone, getting my IMEI. It belongs to me. If I got the phone from you as the service provider, yeah, I understand that. But if I didn't get it from you, what in the world do you need it for? Just give me your SIM card and I'm good to go.
Yeah, and the thing with IMEI numbers, they're individual. I mean, there are some naughty people who sometimes have cloned IMEI numbers and changed them and things when they steal phones, but that's actually, well, certainly over here, that's illegal. I'd imagine it is in the US as well. But IMEI numbers are unique to your phone, should be anyway. And so if your phone gets stolen, you could give your provider your IMEI to make sure that that phone is not allowed to work for somebody else anymore, to try and discourage people from stealing phones. Because if they're stealing a phone and it's not going to work anymore after they've stolen it, then they're not going to want to bother stealing things anymore. But also it can be used, to check sometimes that it actually is you. I had a phone blacklisted once, and they got the number wrong, and they blacklisted the wrong phone. That was very annoying. But yeah, they're individual numbers, aren't they? And I think SIM cards have individual numbers too. And sometimes when you get a new SIM card, you have to ring up and tell them what the number is and stuff so they can activate it.
A very important thing you mentioned there, Fee, most especially about, someone stealing your phone. If you know that IMEI, you could tell your provider and they could just blacklist it, and that phone is not going to be able to work anymore. So as you said, it's unique. Every phone has its own. You cannot have two phones having the same IMEI. And it always baffles the mind that, we have billions of phones out there, and to know that each one of them is separate from the next one. I'm always kind of, I'm awed as to how that works. And talking about SIM cards, it's the same idea. You have that thing just for that particular SIM card as well. So it's a very interesting take. And sometimes I wonder, are they going to run out of numbers? But they never seem to.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as well. Eventually, will they run out? Will they have to change the numbering system? Because the ones I've looked at often seem to start with 3-5. Yeah, I don't know. But I haven't looked at mine lately, so it might not start with that anymore. Yeah, the other thing with IMEI numbers is sometimes you can, like, if you tell your provider your IMEI number, they can look and go, oh yes, that's a Samsung whatever, and they can tell that straight away from you giving them the numbers. It's amazing. And I guess they can do that because there's a database somewhere matching numbers with what the phone model is, I guess.
Exactly. Austin, what is it about phone that you like?
So regarding the IMEI numbers that were mentioned earlier, I want to make some 2-3 points. The first thing is, as you get a new phone, the first thing you do is you write in your EMI number somewhere, preferably on your computer or somewhere that goes with you. I mean, if you store it on OneDrive, you can take it from different locations, and when your phone gets stolen, you give it to the provider or the police. And there is a database, so your first 4 digits of your IMEI stands for the manufacturer name, so like Samsung or whatever. I like one important setting in the About phone, and that is enabling developer options. So developer options is a setting which only will show up if you have enabled that. And developer options is required to flash a ROM or to opt in and out of betas for Android. Not only that, but developer options also has some very useful things that you can do. So we may do a part of the developer settings. I don't know, maybe next week if I can record, we can do a part on the developer settings. There are a lot of settings there, and some of them are really useful. So they can give your phone a little extra performance also. We are not going to overboard the CPU, we are not going to overclock, but going to reduce some transitions and all by which your phone will perform nicely. So I like that enabling developer options. To do that, you have to tap the build number 7 times. So with TalkBack, you do double tap, so you have to tap it 14 times. So that's what I like in the About phone.
Now, Austin, you mentioned something important about that IMEI. You know, I confess that I don't write down mine, and I should, because I'm thinking back on my Pixel 4a that I lent my daughter, and it kind of got lost. I don't know where it is. And if I had that IMEI, at least I would have blacklisted that phone, but I didn't.
And one more thing I forgot to mention is that if you're in a country that has dual SIM phones, your phone has 2 IMEI numbers.
I didn't know that. So if the phone supports 2 SIM cards, then it will have 2 IMEIs.
Yeah, one for SIM 1 and one for SIM 2.
So in a sense, it seems like the IMEI, in a sense, is somehow tied to a SIM card as well.
Not a SIM card, but it's not. It's tied to the SIM slot.
Yeah, that's what I mean, to the SIM slot, rather. That's why the service provider would be able to blacklist the phone, because if it's tied to a SIM slot, and if the provider is your provider, then they can disable that phone or disable that SIM slot so that no one could put in a SIM card and be able to use it. And that totally makes sense.
So in India, what used to happen is there was, if you give your IMEI number to your provider, the phone would be blacklisted on your provider only. So people can put the SIM cards of other providers and use the phone. But now the TRAI, that is the Telecom Body of India, has made a rule that if you give your EMI to one provider, they will blacklist it on the entire network. So that is a good thing.
That's really good, because you want to discourage people from stealing phones, something that people like to do. Let's then talk about the tips and support. And probably, you know, it's a very important one too. And since we're dealing with the Pixel phone, for example, I really like this segment because you can find articles, the how-tos, and you can also return your device from within here. Say you're having some difficulty and you're still within that warranty period. Then you could go in here and be able to access the contact the Google support, or you could check on the community support. But if you want to return it, then you do the contact us and you fill out the form in there as I was showing, and you can return your phone there, or you can even request to be called back. You can even do a live chat if that's what you want. And that's what I like about the tips and support. That's what I have done. The how many times that I had to return my phone, I had to go in here and do that. Is that found on other phones? I know the Samsung phones have it. I'm not sure about other phones. Austin, you've had other manufacturers, like have you had any Redmi phones, you know, from Xiaomi or some other manufacturers there in India that has that feature?
I had the Redmi phones, the OnePlus phones, but it's not found in them. I don't know about the latest models, but the ones that I had at least was 5-6 year old, and the OnePlus phones that was about 2-3 year old. But in that there were no tips and tricks.
So this may be something that is dependent on the manufacturer, of course. So some manufacturers will give you an additional way of finding them, or where you'll find articles that you can go into and learn about how to use their devices. And so I think this should be something that all manufacturers should implement, as it's a very important part of the phone, most especially if the person is not used to phones. Maybe this is their first time. And what I like about the Pixel phones, though, is that during the setup, you can run into that and you can choose to either go through those tutorials or those articles or videos if you wanted to, and get familiar with what it is.
It's not something that I've really gone into, mainly because I kind of assumed that it wouldn't necessarily be that helpful from a blindness point of view. And I was going to ask you about that, Warren, like the articles and stuff. Don't most of them tell you how to do things in like a sighted way? You know, I mean, when I got my new Samsung phone, that was when I found you guys on the podcast, and I just searched for blind Android users because I'd used Apple phones before and they've got Apple Vis, and I found blind Android users, which is like it's like the Android equivalent of that, really. And I wanted tips from other blind people, and I wonder. I'm guessing they're not really available, but I suppose you could do a chat with somebody from Google. But then, how many of them know about how to use TalkBack and stuff? Because, for example, on Apple, I know there's an accessibility number you can actually call, you know, if you want support. And I don't know, because I found most of what I wanted on the website or, you know, the podcast. I haven't really bothered with it. So I wondered if you knew, Warren, or you, Austin, but, you know, is there, do Google, how good are they at supporting people using TalkBack and things if they're stuck?
Yes, please. So when you go in here, you could be able to read the articles. And then, of course, if you're setting up your phone for the first time, by default, your TalkBack hints are on by default. And so the TalkBack will tell you, to do this, you need to do this and that. But also the tips and tricks also will tell you, for example, to go home, you'll say swipe, from the bottom of the phone, and to go home. Of course, if you're using a screen reader, if you don't know that you have to use two fingers, then that may be a problem, because they didn't put that in there. You have to find that information within the TalkBack tutorial. So if you have gone through the TalkBack tutorial that comes up when you first launch accessibility before this setup, then you would have come across that. But referring to support, for example, when you are chatting with someone, doing a live chat, you can let them also know that, hey, I'm blind, so give me time to, finish typing what I'm trying to type. And if you need them to take over your phone, they can also take over your phone and see what's going on. So that's one of the good things that we have here in that tips and support.
But can they support you with TalkBack? Will they even know about it? Do they know how to use it? A lot of the agents.
No, these will not, because they are not the disability support. They are just the general support of the phone. So most of them probably have not even heard of a screen reader. So no, they're not going to give you TalkBack support. You'll have to go to that disability support, and that's why Google has that as a separate body.
Is there a place to find that on your phone, or do you have to go on the web to look for that?
No, it's not on your phone. It would be a good thing to include that in the TalkBack settings. So that's a very good idea.
Or the accessibility bit. You could have various, because there's other things as well, aren't there? There are things for people with hearing problems and stuff, and you could just have an extra section called contact disability support or something, couldn't you? And hopefully they would know about both of those. That would and various other things like dexterity stuff, and that would be really good. I think they in the accessibility bit they should put that. But obviously only if there's actually enough people to do the support, because it'd be a bit stupid to put it in and then it doesn't actually work. So basically, guys, if you want good support with TalkBack and stuff, stick with us. We're there for you.
Exactly. But it's a very good point that they should have that contact accessibility support right there in both the accessibility segment as well as in the TalkBack settings. I think that's a very good idea, and why no one ever thought about that. It's really interesting tech. But like you said, though, Blind Android Users is here. If you have any need, want some support with your screen reader or whatever, just shoot us an email or get to our email forum or listen to our podcast and you'll be golden.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't always want support with a particular thing, do you? You just want to know about new things. And you might hear about a new app and go, oh, I didn't know that app was accessible. You know, so hopefully we serve that need as well.
Indeed.
But yeah, that's why I don't really use the tips thing, because it's very sort of sighted orientated. Maybe I'll use it for something one day, but I haven't so far. It's a shame you haven't got more co-hosts today, really, to find out if they've used it.
Yeah, well, like I said, though, there are some articles in there, and the articles are, legible, they're readable, they're accessible to the screen reader. So they're not, the videos, if you want to watch the videos, you can, but you can just read the article and know how to use your device. So it's a good place to go to if you're not very familiar. But like I said, we are here.
Yeah, but it could be confusing for newbies because it'll say swipe, and it might not say, by the way, if you're using TalkBack, add an extra finger to any gesture, because otherwise it won't work, and most articles don't. And even, when you're searching things to do with TalkBack just on the web, most of the results are, how do you turn off TalkBack? So I guess it is a bit niche, but it's sort of annoying that Google haven't got a proper, like you say, in the TalkBack settings and in the accessibility, and maybe within some of the other accessibility bits that we don't really use as well. Maybe they need to have that there.
And that's where we fill in the gap. So listen to us, read our emails and all of that, and you'll get all that support that is missing. So the missing link is right there, BAU, Blind Android Users Podcast, or blindandroidusers.com.